Welcome back to Doghouse Renos. I'm Jer with Doghouse Times, and in this episode, I'm going to show you how to insulate a doghouse cheap for maximum warmth. The tricks I use save money, time, and it's easy to do, so stay tuned. The first thing we're going to do with our doghouse is measure the floor layout, because we want to start with the floor, so we want to make sure that we have all our proper measurements. Let's begin. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring the floor in multiple locations to make sure that I have the length and width correct.
15 1/4 by 23.
And what that is the minimum length and width measurement. That's right, the minimum. And what I've also done is I've measured out where the posts in the corner are, because I'm going to do little cutaways, like little L's out of each corner, as you'll see in a moment. Now the type of insulation that I'm using here is 95% reflective of radiant heat. So what it is a foil bubble wrap that I purchased. This one in particular I got at Home Depot. I believe the roll was somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 Canadian. It gives me more than enough to line the entire inside of the doghouse. And as I said before, I'm starting with the floor and I'm putting this all over the floor. So what it'll do is when the dog is lying on the floor of the doghouse, it's going to radiate all of the dog's heat, or well, 95% of it that would normally be lost through the cold floor. It's going to radiate that back up to the dog. So the dog will be keeping its own bed warm, so to speak. And on top of this, I am going to put carpet inside as well. It's an outdoor carpet, an all-weather carpet, which I will be placing on top of that floor insulation, as you're going to see. And what that will do is give it something a little more comfortable than sitting on bubble wrap, and it'll allow a little bit of ventilation for the dog while the dog is lying there on the floor. Now with the bubble wrap, I didn't cut it precisely because I wanted to kind of shove it into those corners and edges, as you can see here, and that's what I've done. So I've cut the foil bubble wrap insulation with a little bit extra so that I can kind of squish it into the corners like this, as you can see, and kind of feed it in to those little gaps and areas where, you know, you want it to get in there. And also, what this is also going to do is kind of act like a waterproofing bed for the base and the floor of our doghouse. And this is a great way to insulate the floor. I love this stuff, this foil wrap. It's fantastic. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to measure the floor again, double checking the length and width. I want to make sure that I've got the length and width correct because I'm going to make a template for the floor. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm taking this all-weather carpet that I purchased, again, at Home Depot, but you can get this at any of your usual hardware stores. Should sell this indoor-outdoor carpet. You can hose it down. You can throw it in the wash. Because it's got rubber, don't put it in the dryer. Just let it air dry. But as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm marking it all out beforehand, and I'm double checking the length and width as I'm doing that to make sure that I've got it all right. And I'm going to do all my little cutaways on this piece to make sure that it goes around the 4 posts in the corner of the doghouse, and to make sure that it fits perfectly and nice and snug to all the edges. I want it to completely cover the bubble wrap insulation that's underneath. And the other thing that you can see that I'm doing here is I'm actually going to make an extra little flap for the carpet. I want that to go in the doorway of the doghouse, and I will be later framing the doorway to extend it a little bit to make kind of a extra rain barrier. So I'm not concerned about it sticking outside of the doorway. It's going to sit there, and it's going to help just to keep that last little bit of cloth available for the dog to stretch out and lie down on. So that's going to be excellent.
Now that I have the floor insulated and I've put a nice carpet down, and that's an all-weather carpet, by the way, which I've cut to size, as you can see. The reason why I have not glued this down is because in case there's a mess on it, and eventually the dog will get mud and whatever else on it, I want to be able to take that out, hose it down, maybe even throw it in the wash if I need to. So I'm not going to attach that to the floor, but I have cut it to size so it fits absolutely perfect. And that is exactly what we want for the floor. A nice insulated, comfortable mat that your dog can lie down on. Next, we're going to insulate the sides. We're going to fill in this big gap here, which we only want a little bit of airflow, but the door will be giving us enough airflow as it is. So I'm going to fill that in with insulation, and we're going to cover all the walls of this thing to make it completely insulated for winter. And what I'm going to use for that is what you saw already that I'd put down, but also I've got this roll of pink insulation. It's like a foam insulation, and I also have this roll of this aluminum, well, I don't know if it's aluminum, but it's a foil insulation bubble wrap, and this stuff is supposed to be absolutely fantastic for reflecting heat and adding insulation. So this combined with this, and I may just throw a little bit of cloth from this fabric onto the side, or not fabric, sorry, carpet onto the sides as well, just to cover the insulation. Not that you have to do that, but I've got all this extra left over from the piece that I purchased to do the floor. So I might as well add a little bit. But we'll see how it goes after we get the insulation done.
Okay, so seriously though, what I'm doing right now is I'm just rough fitting the pink insulation, this foam roll, just to get a length, because I'm going to do multiple layers of it. It's going to be layered up the sides, so I don't want to have to remeasure each time, so I'm just going to get one rough length, and then I'm going to pull that out there and cut a bunch of them to length. So we'll just fast forward this a little bit, so it's, you can see me cut it, yeah. So I'm just taking my electric staple gun, and of course I'm being extra cautious, using safety glasses and gloves and the whole kit and caboodle. But I'm using that to just fasten the foam insulation, and I'm going to run it in layers around the perimeter of the inside before I put the foil on top of it. And I'm just going to use a few staples here and there to hold it in place, because unlike the foil, this does not hold its shape once you squish it into the edges. So you have to use a little bit of help, and I like the staple gun for that. Oh, camera fail.
So I've got the first layer of the pink insulation strips staple gunned in, and I've got each one overlapping the one underneath. That way we're getting a nice seal. And this is of course going to have the foil over top of it, so it's going to work out really nicely. Okay, so as you can see, I'm done wrapping the foil wrap over top. Now what I did, I just put this here just so that you could see, but what I've done is wrapped it like so, and then I left this last one here, and it's going to leave a little air gap at the top, so there's still going to be lots of breathability going on in there, but it's not going to be a huge amount that we're going to lose in terms of heat escape. Because this stuff's reflective, and then I've also got the pink insulation in behind it, 3 layers of that. And then as you can see inside the doghouse here, I still haven't cut out the doorway yet, but I'll be cutting that out next, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a flap so that I can wrap it around a little bit, and you'll see what I mean in a sec. Okay. So I've insulated the doghouse. It's literally just that simple. So what I did here, I put the foil radiant insulation on the floor, cut it to shape. Then I cut to shape this fabric, which is actually an indoor-outdoor carpet that I picked up at a hardware store. And it can be washed, hosed down, whatever, so I can easily take it out. I didn't staple it down. It's not stapled down, it's not glued down, but I did staple the sides, which I did after I did the floor carpet. And that's so that it kind of holds the carpet in place, but the carpet can be removed for easy cleaning. On the walls, you can see here, I left a little sticking out just so you can see it, and I'm going to frame that later. But I put this pink insulation in first in layers so that it's covering all the sides, and then I put in the foil insulation. I'll just take you right inside here. So this foil insulation is inside the doghouse. I've just used a staple gun to affix it to all the walls. And then I didn't cut it down. I just let it squish in for the top. And right now you can see I've got that propped open. But I've kept a flap here so that when I close it, it's only going to leave a little gap at the top, which is good for breathability and a little bit of airflow. But for the most part, the rest of the heat is going to be radiated around inside this thing, and it's going to work just fantastic to keep the dog nice and warm on cooler days. So that's it. That's insulating a doghouse with the foil insulation, my insulation of choice.
Thanks for watching Doghouse Times, Doghouse Reno Series, Episode 2 on insulating the doghouse. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notify bell button, wherever it is, to make sure that you are staying up to date with the latest videos from Doghouse Times. Thanks again for watching.